You have reached the Geek Elite. Good luck.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
Time to get into that intergalactic Cadillac and get on that journey into mystery as we get together with Case from the Certain POV Network and talk once again. Well, we talk with Case once again, but this time we're going to be talking about Hulk from 2003 starring Eric Bana. And man, do we have things to say.
Oh, we do. We do. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me on for this one. I've been trying to figure out who I wanted to talk about this movie with, and you guys seemed appropriate.
Well, it's always great to have you on, Case. I'm glad you're here. I'm not super glad I had to watch this movie. I think I'm just suffering from Hulk burnout.
I mean, we did watch a lot of Hulk in this season.
Yeah.
I need a break from the Hulk, which luckily we get a break from the Hulk after this movie, and then my life will be better.
There you go. There it is. So before that, Ian and myself in Case will talk a little bit about some MCU news. Then we're going to, I guess, give our thoughts, what we saw in Loki episode 1. I assume you've watched it, Case. I forgot to talk to you beforehand.
Oh, yeah, I did, yeah.
And
Okay, cool.
And then we'll break down Hulk 2003. So, what I have for MCU news, first thing, Vin Diesel says that Groot in the next Guardian of the Galaxy movie is going to be going back to Planet X, his home planet. I mean, technically, since James Gunn said that this isn't the same Groot from the first movie, it's completely separate, it's not this Groot's home planet, right?
That depends on how you define it with the whole, like, because it's like a sprout or like a clipping kind of situation. Like, on one sense, it's like it is a Groot that goes back however many Groots have Grooted from Groot. But it's also from another sense, like, yeah, it's a different intelligence. Like, it's a different person, but, like, I don't know. I feel like saying it's his own planet still works. Like, when we go off into space, we'll still be like, yeah, we're from Earth originally.
Is that a story that anybody is really interested in seeing?
I feel like Groot is a pretty one-note character, and that's not a bad thing. So trying to develop Groot, you're either going to get something awesome or it's going to suck. I feel like there's no middle ground. I feel like there's no room to be like, I mean, it was okay. Like, whatever that side plot was or subplot was with Groot, like, all right. I feel like we're going to get a very much so like, I mean, it was a good movie. I could have done without the whole, like, Planet X thing.
I mean, I feel like having to sit there and listen to someone else interpret what Groot is saying the whole time, like on Groot's home planet, is going to be a little bit more tedious than it has been in the past movies. But then again, I guess we do it with Chewbacca, right?
So we're looking at the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. Okay.
I mean, they're doing that also. So
yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, like with Chewbacca though, there's like inflection to it. and it's more than just like I am Groot and a couple variations thereof. With Chewbacca, it's like I feel like there's more involved with that, and Han just kind of like, all right, cool, it moves on, as opposed to like it being a whole conversation.
Well, you can take the word of Vin Diesel, they're going to go to Planet X. If you don't want to take his word, then don't worry about it. We also have Tyrese Gibson, who is also a part of the Fast and the Furious franchise, who is going to be in Morbius, or was already in Morbius, depending on how you want to look at it, since we haven't seen it yet. He has declared that Morbius is part of the MCU. Like, has anybody else said that past him? Like, has anybody else caught that in the news? Kevin Feige said that the Sony movies are part of the MCU.
I mean, there's been weird drama with Venom, like if that counted or not. I've heard some Sony people being like, yeah, it's all the same, and Feige being like, no, it's not.
Not so much.
I mean, it isn't until it is, you know.
True. I mean, we did see in the Morbius trailer, we saw Michael Keaton, so he's kind of reprising his role of Adrian Toomes.
Yeah, so I mean, it could be a scenario where like it is kind of in canon with Spider-Man movies, but not with the rest. And like Spider-Man movies are MCU, but it's like the degree of canon is kind of wonky on that one. Yeah. I don't know. I'm fine with extending sort of like the olive branch to bring in other things to the MCU. Like, I don't think everything has to be or it doesn't all have to like spring forth from like one basic starting point, especially now that we're outside of like the parameters of the quote unquote Infinity Saga. Mm-hmm. Like it, if they want to say like, hey, yeah, we'll bring you in. Like, I was always down for the idea that like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man could have been the Spider-Man of the MCU. Like, that would have been fine.
That is not a bad idea
to extend that. Like, not, obviously it's nice that we have Tom Holland, but like it would have been, you would have had just like a different kind of style on Spider-Man. Like, okay, cool, yeah, it's a different Spider-Man, or it's our classic Spider-Man, and he had his career as Spider-Man 10 years ago. Like, would have been fine. They could extend the same thing to these Sony things, or if they say, oh, we don't want that messing with our brand, I also understand. It's just like whenever they decide that they want to consider it that or not. Kind of like the way like the CW superhero shows like brought in the DCEU by having the Ezra Miller cameo.
I mean,
they can do it.
I struggle with like if they're like, oh, we can't bring these movies in because they're not to our standards. Like, I don't feel like you can say that after we've had Iron Man 2, Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 3. An unpopular opinion, but Guardians 2. Like, if you're worried about having like movies that don't meet your standards, you already got like 4 of them in the catalog of the MCU. You just
let me
go
just
ahead
say
and
that
do
it is a good thing you play a bard in D&D games, because them's fighting words.
Damn right. That's what we do.
I don't know. I mean, like, I would say, like, while you just rattled off some of the weaker entries in the MCU, and then also mentioned Guardians 2 for some reason,
I didn't like it.
Like, them being weaker on the MCU spectrum doesn't make them weaker as just general superhero movies or movies in general. Like, I would say any of those are better than Amazing Spider-Man 2. We'll have to talk about that at some point.
That is so true. That is obviously true. Something you said a second ago, Case, I think it'd be a great idea. It'd be awesome if we went to go see Spider-Man No Way Home, and in that movie, they are filming a Spider-Man movie, and that's why you have, all these actors coming from the old movies into this one. Like, everybody's expecting it to be a multiverse kind of thing, but in actuality, they're just filming a movie, and Alfred Molina is playing the role of Dr. Octopus.
I would be so down.
I would just laugh my ass off.
I also think that I think I've said it a couple weeks in a row now. I think that the fan cry of we need Deadpool to dress up like Stan Lee and start doing those cameos.
I mean,
I need that in my life. Just put him somewhere in Spider-Man dressed up as Stan Lee, and he's like, "Oh wow, that guy's swinging really fast," or just some dumb line.
I think we saw in this first episode of Loki how the Stan Lee cameos are going to be going. I don't know if anybody else caught it.
I didn't.
I'm not sure what you're referencing.
So there's a mural in the TVA when they go walking by. There's a bunch of people in this mural, and in the front of it is a man that's definitely, I would say, is depicted to look like Stan Lee.
Oh,
Gotcha. I did not see that.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a lot of that.
But also, in close proximity to watching the Loki pilot, I also watched like the first half of MODOK, and there's a mural in that is much more eye-grabbing, we'll say.
Nice. I didn't watch all of MODOK yet, so
I haven't touched it yet. Is it worth it?
If you like Robot Chicken, this is Robot Chicken for Marvel.
Oh, okay, I'm in. That's a great way.
Yeah, I mean it's the same kind of style of animation. It's got similar kind of humor in general. I'd say it's in that sort of like zany, off the wall kind of takes, and it's just amazing some of the shit that they're throwing in there from just like obscure Marvel stuff, like. Like Armadillo shows up as a villain, or not as a villain, like as just a character at a bar at one point. It's just like, Armadillo, really? And then they remember that he had issues with his wife. I was like, this is actually great.
All right. So Morbius might be a part of the MCU. We'll see.
That's how we got there.
That's right. We have casting news for She-Hulk. Jamila Jamil is going to be playing Titania, one of the villains of She-Hulk. Now, do you say Titania? Because I hear that's the way I'd say it, but I've heard someone else call it Titania.
I've never heard it that way.
Right?
No.
I've always said Titania, but like to sort of emphasize the Titan part. But that's just a minor emphasis on the wrong syllable kind of thing right there, and I have no idea what's right.
Do you know anything about this particular villain?
Yeah, so she's been traditionally linked with She-Hulk. She is not quite in the same power category. She first showed up in Secret Wars, which roughly around the time when Spider-Woman 2 showed up for the first time and Black Suit Spider-Man showed up, like that whole crossover. I think that was Secret Wars. Yeah, so I think it was the Beyonder gave her powers.
Oh,
might be off on that one. But she's super strong. She's pretty durable. Like I said, not quite in the category of She-Hulk, but enough that they can fight. She eventually links up with Crusher Creel, a.k.a. the Absorbing Man, and since like the late 80s, they've been in a relationship pretty much consistently, and have generally been like backed off from like supervillainary because they're like, no, we're not dealing with that anymore. We're just leave us alone. We're happy being over here. But every now and then she sort of gets back into a fight with like She-Hulk and whatnot. I remember she had a pretty big part in like the back half of Dan Slott's She-Hulk run, kind of dealing with her own like insecurities because she was like also kind of a meek little girl who was turned into this big like Amazon type character.
So super strength, kind of endurance, kind of superpower set. Funny that you bring up Crusher Creel, the Absorbing Man, for what we're going to be talking about later. Do you think this is good casting? Did either of you watch The Good Place?
Yes.
Oh, I love The Good Place. She is very tall, so that is good on that front. Yeah, I don't anticipate them showing much about her backstory, or if they do, they probably won't have it the mousy little girl kind of aspect. They might like pick up with her already in her form. Mm-hmm. I'm not fully clear what She-Hulk's going to look like on screen, but like Titania is like in the same category of size. Like she's like I think like 6'5", you know, like, and like She-Hulk's like 7 feet. Like they're like not that, you know, there's no like tiny person in this situation. Like they're big person and then bigger person. So I think from that standpoint, it's good. Jamila Jamil is a great actress. I love The Good Place. I thought it was great. Her playing a villain is a fun turn, and she's like a little bit in The Good Place, at least. She plays like a more posh kind of character, like someone who is a little aristocratic and kind of snobby, which isn't the vibe I usually get from Titania. Again, that might be because of her relationship with Crusher Creel, who is very much a blue collar kind of guy, and so maybe she's slumming it with him, and I just don't remember that aspect because she's never been an A-list character in the Marvel U. She's been fun to have, and she's got a good power set for a good fight if you need to have a character for that. And she has a intimate relationship with another character, so it's like good to use dramatically. But you know, like I said, aside from like remembering that she was like into superheroes before she became a supervillain, like she was like a fan. Like I don't remember too much about like was she rich or not? I don't know. Like is she supposed to have a British accent? I don't know. Like. And honestly, who cares?
I think that's all going to work in her favor. Yeah, that fact that most people aren't going to know too much about her character is going to work in the actress's favor. Which Jamila Jamil, is always has a very sunny disposition. So I wonder if that's also going to work in the character's favor.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I think it's a good actress for an interesting enough character who is a classic enough She-Hulk associated character, so I think it'll fit well. I still just don't know what She-Hulk looks like yet. I know we've seen some stuff with like Bruce Banner and like mocap suits, but I still have no idea about any of that.
Yeah, no, that makes
I'm excited, but I'm scared because I love She-Hulk. She's so fun.
So a last bit of news, which is more of a rumor that's going around out there, is that Scar is going to show up in the She-Hulk show. The son of Hulk from Planet Hulk. How does everybody feel about that? I mean, obviously, you could tie it in with Thor Ragnarok, with the Hulk being on Sakaar for so long before Thor showed up. Could have definitely impregnated a woman.
Absolutely, he did. Are you kidding me? Did you see the way he was hanging out in his room? Like, when we see him on, like, all post fighting, he's just in there, like, naked, being like, I'm the Hulk. Yeah. There's no way he only has one kid.
Yeah, he's been spending years as a champion in this whole battlefield and being treated like a god.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's likely. That part's not weird. What we're not going to get is like the whole like big nuke that destroys everything kind of situation that happened in the comics, and then like he just barely survived because he's just too damn angry. Kind of vibe that the Scar had.
I mean, Magic
Also,
Bollocks
I don't know
in
if there's
chat.
anything on the planet that's like strong enough. Sorry, go.
Oh, no, dude, say what you're saying, because I can get back to chat here in a second. So say what you're saying.
Oh, I was going to say, like, I don't know, like, we didn't really see much about the other inhabitants of the planet, so I don't know if there's any character that would be sort of the equivalent. I forget the name of the Hulk's lover in that story.
I forget too.
But she had, like, superpowers. Like, she had, like, the old strength or something like that, where she could, like, become, like, stony and, like, was strong enough to, like, be able to take on the Hulk. And so Scar had both of those powers.
So Magic Bollocks in chat said, historically, gladiators would get pimped out by their owners. So
Yeah.
It makes sense.
So this
And-
was against the Hulk's will, is what you're saying.
I mean, maybe. It depends. Was it? Now I'm spacing on names. But like, never mind. I lost it.
If you were to have to be able to cast someone to play Scar, who would you like to see? I assume it's going to be completely CGI, so you just need the voice.
Who would you like to see, and why is it Tom Cruise?
Got it in there.
Tom Cruise would insist on rewrites where they don't do any CG or anything. So it'll be like Jack Reacher, where he's supposed to be like 7 feet tall, and it's just like Tom Cruise 5'5" or whatever.
I don't know. I feel.
I don't know. I mean, like, it could be a great voice actor opportunity. Like, you find someone who just doesn't have the right look for a Marvel character, but has like a great voice for it. Or you don't, and you find like some hot giant person. Because like Jason Momoa would be great for this part, but obviously he's not going to be cast in this part. But who's the young Jason Momoa? Who's Baywatch era Jason Momoa now?
Me, I'll do it.
Ian? Okay, that's it. All right, yeah. Do the Marvel workout.
Dude, I'm gonna get ripped.
And that's the other thing, which is the Marvel workout stuff. Hey, yeah, like the choice of actors used to be like, all right, who's in good enough shape to be one of these characters? But now we know that, like, oh yeah, well, if you just pay them to eat, grilled chicken and take steroids and work out for a year, anyone can be in these movies. Camila Nanjiani can look freakishly ripped in one of these things. So like, what good actor or funny actor, or because all we need is someone who's tall. If it's not going to be CG, and if it's not, and if it is CG, it doesn't matter at all.
I got it.
So,
he's not working right now. Well, he is working right now, but he's not working over at DC anymore. Let's get to Henry Cavill as the son of the Hulk.
Let him keep the mustache.
There you go.
So chat is saying Jeremy Irons and Zac Efron.
Zac Efron's body, Jeremy Irons' acting ability.
There we go. Send it.
Or the other way around, because I'm here for that too. All right, let's talk. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So last thing about this like a Hulk news about Planet Hulk. I wish we would have gotten like actual Planet Hulk, where he just comes back to Earth and just whoops on everybody.
Oh, for the World War Hulk part?
Well, yeah, like we send him to space, but this was his choice. Okay, yeah, cool, do your thing. But now, like, it's Planet Hulk that we get, and then we come back and we do World War Hulk. That's hard to say. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, nobody came to save me. I'm mad at everyone.
It makes me wonder because, I think it's Universal that owns the rights to the Hulk. So, like, you can't do a straight up Hulk movie right now. You have to do Hulk teamed up. But if it's a Disney Plus show, is that considered a movie? Is that just considered a show? Can they still do World War Hulk the show?
I would watch the hell out of that. I would also watch a Marvel Zombies show.
True.
Also, it'd be fun. Yeah, I mean, because like She-Hulk was one of those characters that like Marvel rolled out so that they wouldn't be created on the show and then be owned by the show rights. So like there is some divorcing of the rights of She-Hulk from Hulk, the same way Spider-Woman was just like put out there real quick, so that you wouldn't have competitors picking it up or having her show up in a different media and then like them having to pay royalties. So I don't know where the line is between She-Hulk and Hulk on that one, and if they could do a Hulk show, because again, those rights are always like kind of wonky. That's why like there was like the Marvel, Fox, X-Men TV show deals that they were doing up until they just bought them. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That said, I don't like World War Hulk. I like Planet Hulk a lot. I think it's a great comic. World War Hulk disappointed me a lot. Like, I was like all pumped being like, look at all these badass characters. Korg is like one of those rock monsters from Thor's first appearance. That's great. Mick is a giant bug monster. Awesome. We got like the whole crew like had been established as being these battle-hardened gladiators who fought side by side with the Hulk. And then the actual tie-in books were not that strong. And like the actual main book, just didn't
hit
like
it.
There's one really good moment in that comic. And that is when he goes to the moon and fights Black Bolt. Like, that's a great goddamn moment where he rises up. It's like, I didn't come to hear you whisper. I came to hear you scream. Like, such a cool scene. But, like, when Doctor Strange, like, does when Doctor Strange casts Tensor's transformation on himself so he can be a fighter for a little bit, and he's got like mace hands, like it looked kind of goofy. And like John Romita is an artist who's like probably good for the Hulk in general, but like just didn't look that great in this book. And like the stuff, Sentry's a character I have issues with anyway, so like ending on Sentry was also kind of a thing.
Oh.
But mace hands. You can't tell me that's not.
Wait,
a cool
mace hands
concept.
against Hulk hands.
No, this way you can punch his Hulk hands with your mace hands, and it's not going to be a problem.
I love it.
You know what would have made it great? If Doctor Strange found the toy Hulk hands and he cast a spell on them so he could use them have the strength of the Hulk while he was wearing those Hulk hands.
Yep.
I would love that.
And now I can see Benedict Cumberbatch doing that. That would be a lot of fun, actually. Okay,
That'd be great. Put it in the movie.
I'm back in.
Marvel.
I'm back in.
Yeah, Marvel.
And
write this down. Take notes.
And this allows him to clean up the whole Inhumans thing, because he can show up on the moon and he can just murder all the Inhumans. And then they could be like, "What series are you talking about?" Oh, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Do not worry about it.
And you brought up both characters that Chad had mentioned earlier. Somebody in my chat was like, "You know what? If we're talking about shit MCU, Black Bolt and the Inhumans."
That's true. That's very true.
Unfortunate. But
I think
is it time to talk about Loki?
It's time to talk about Loki, because I think we have the device that could possibly take away the Inhumans from the MCU at this point with the TVA. So, what did you two think of our first exposure to the TVA and Owen Wilson's Mobius?
I want to put this out here real quick. If you haven't seen the first episode, that's what we're going to be talking about. You had a week. This is the cutting edge of our podcast. So I'm sorry in advance, but I really enjoyed it. I think Owen Wilson is great. He's like grizzled cop that's not grizzled cop, and like I'm on board.
Yeah, likewise. I loved it. I was so excited about all of it. I'm very pumped about the idea of more like time heist type things. Like, it was a little weird that the DB Cooper thing was just Loki being Loki, as opposed to like part of the sort of like fun of Loki being like a secret agent in time kind of thing, which we were kind of sold on. Mm-hmm. But I'm here for more. I'm happy with it all. I was instantly reminded about how much I like Tom Hiddleston once the show actually started, because I was like a little being like, do I really like him? It's been a while since I've really cared about him. He's not a big part of like of Infinity War or Endgame for that matter. So it's been a while since he's been in a big movie, like since Thor Ragnarok. And like even that was like a little after his huge meteoric like stardom that came from the first Avengers movie had like kind of just simmered down a little bit. So I was like, all right, we'll see. Like I really like WandaVision. I really like Falcon the Winter Soldier. I'm sure they'll do good. Looking forward to it. And then I was like, damn, yeah, oh yeah, he's super charming. Great stuff. Every scene with him, with Owen Wilson, great. Loved it all. Their chemistry is amazing. All the bureaucracy stuff, fucking incredible. like let's make everything look like 60s bureaucracy in the worst possible way, and have Tara Strong do infomercials. Amazing.
Let me ask you this, both of you. So, as we know from Endgame, time travel in the MCU is its own special thing. As I believe the Hulk, Smart Hulk, kind of explained to us that it happened, so it happened. And going forward in your timeline doesn't mean that you're going to change something that happened in the past your timeline, right? So as we see Loki watching his own life play out, and a version of him goes on to reconcile with his brother and then eventually die, right? Is this version of Loki, since it's a variant, not the version that's going to go on to die? Because that's how I read that scene.
I think that's pretty explicit.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't I think it's pretty explicit that this Loki is not the Loki who has all those adventures and dies at the hands of Thanos.
So that's the reason why he's like, what happens to me now? Because he's already watched what happens to the other version of him, and he knows that's not him. So now what happens to him? And that's when Owen Wilson's like, "Will you come to work for us?"
Right, and chat is saying, like, until they reset him, in which case then he becomes
Nothing.
the Loki that goes on to die.
Well, the way I read it is
Because
that the reset just kills it off, kills off that branch.
Yeah, it resets it back to the main timeline. So if you reset that Loki, he's now like Loki Prime. So he's the one that would then go on to do the thing.
Yeah, so the reset is the thing that I find really interesting in this, because we know that there was a system of time travel using the quantum realm established in Endgame, and there's also the Time Stone, which I think is much more limited in terms of like its impact on reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was the assertion by them being able to go in and reset timelines that all of those like parallel realities that were created in game with all their different shenanigans, like were all of those reset shortly thereafter? Like the cleanup crew came in and like wiped it all away, or were all of those still part of the same timeline, even if they're branching realities, which I think could still be a sort of a defined thing. Like the Marvel like multiverse in its main kind of line, like there are universes that are not just like, oh, time was altered and so there are divergent points. Like the Squadron Supreme world is very different from like the main 616 universe, and they actually like interact regularly, like crossing back and forth between each reality. And it was only a later idea that you'd have like other Hyperions from different worlds and other Dr. Spectrums and stuff. Like at first it was very much like this is the main world where these characters exist, and this world has like our normal Marvel characters, and then there's the new universe, and this has those characters, which are different realities, not necessarily different timelines. Like, I think it's like we're getting into a whole like space and time are all different sides of the same coin, and like all that shit. But they said the Avengers were meant to do that, which meant that mucking with time by itself is not the thing that they're trying to stop.
I would have to assume that at this point we figure out, especially with what happens with the Timekeepers and what we know of the Timekeepers, that Captain America, Steve Rogers, goes back in time and does the task of bringing back the individual stones at the exact moment that they left. So him retiring is not a variant because he was always meant to do that.
Right, but we do know that at least they're forked realities. Like, it is weird at the end of the movie where Captain America is sitting there old. So maybe at the reality we've just been kicked over to that reality, and that's the only true reality now, and not the one we'd started in. Like maybe everything from when Cap goes back that last time, we're now in that new future or that new alternate reality. Maybe that's the explanation. Fucking batshit to think about. Like, it's, but I don't know, because like we know that like the Gamora from the past is now living in the future, and that the future version of Gamora is dead. Like, she's still around out there. And also we know that Nebula killed Nebula. Like, the future version of Nebula killed the past version of Nebula.
True.
So like it's like the realities have to be able to fork. This is not Gargoyles where like all the time travel that happens like later in the series was actually set up in the first episode. Like it's not a Terminator 1 timeline, it's a Terminator 2 timeline.
That's fair. I think what's going to really blow our minds when we get to episode 6 of Loki and we find out that the 3 space lizard people are actually Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, and Thor. Like, they went back in time, decided no one gets to mess with the timeline after we did.
Just nobody else. It's only us. So I have conversations as these shows come out with the people that I work with.
Oh no.
Yes. One of them was like, I was kind of on board until we saw the drawer full of Infinity Stones. And then I was just like, that's where it lost me. Like, how you going to have a drawer full of the most powerful things in the universe? Like, well, it's because they're not the most powerful things there.
Yep.
And if it's just timelines on timelines on timelines, you're going to get all these confiscated. Like, and nobody cares because they don't do anything here. He's like, I just think that's really dumb. It's like, well, you're really dumb. Shut up.
See, I think that was the best thing that they could have done with the show. And I mentioned this on Geeks Watch. It literally is Kevin Feige being like, forget about them. They don't mean anything anymore. That was the old phase. That was the Infinity Saga. We're moving on to the next thing. They are now obsolete.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, there is a canon in the comics of the Infinity Gems not working in different realities.
Right.
Like not working in realities that are not their own, but able to traverse different planes, like going to astral plane or the dimension of death or whatever, like with a reality stone. So like, I don't know, like the whole concept of like different realities versus different timelines might be its own kind of fucking thing. Oh my God. Like my eyes are going to start bleeding very soon if we keep too much on this thread, but it could be that like either this place that they're in outside of time and outside of the corporeal reality just manifested looking like 60s bureaucratic bullshit, because that is Loki's comfort place, or maybe like someone's comfort place, our comfort place. I don't know. Maybe that's just like, oh yeah, it just doesn't work here, or they don't work elsewhere anyway. Because like that was, I think, created in the Avengers JLA crossover, where Darkseid got a hold of them, and they're like, oh, they don't work here. So I guess it's not a big deal. Throw them away.
That, and another thing I wanted to bring up that I've been seeing a lot of people talk about was the whole Coulson part. So when Mobius is showing Loki his life and saying, you know, you were a cruel person, you killed Coulson, people are saying that means that the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist, or doesn't exist in the MCU, because it doesn't mention the fact that he gets brought back to life. Well, it's like, to me, that wasn't what Mobius was trying to do. Like the idea is that they don't know that, most people didn't know that Coulson came back to life. So why would Mobius tell Loki, who just killed Coulson just a couple hours earlier, or a day earlier in Avengers? So I don't think it takes away, it deletes the the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the MCU, and that's just because I like the show.
I would agree, because like if you watch the show, you know it worked.
Yeah.
Like it's not that he didn't die. He died. He was resurrected with space tech, and that's how the spoiler for season 1 of the Shield, or not the Shield. Pardon me.
Agents of Shield.
Sorry, spoilers for Shield, or Agents of Shield. Pardon me. Yeah, not the Michael Chiklis bad cop show. That he's a bad cop. Not that the show's bad. The show's good.
Nope. You heard it here. That's Case's
Come
opinion
at me,
on the
Shield
show.
fans.
On the show Shield. Said it sucks, and everybody who watches it sucks.
From like 2002, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I agree. Like, I don't think it does anything. Like, for one thing, it's still true. He still actually killed him, and that's still the thing he did was murder. So it doesn't like absolve him of a crime just because they had the means. Because it's not like, oh, you wounded him and he could have died. It's no, he actually died. So like that part's true. And also, why would you tell him that part? That's like the footnote that's
right.
Like kind of defangs like the dramatic impact of, if you're trying to be like, here's the moral. You murdered a person. Like you should try to be better. Like. That's always true. Like, there's no reason to defang that and be like, oh, you almost hurt a person. You could have hurt a person. You could have messed up a timeline. You might have killed your mom by accident. Like,
indirectly.
No, your mom is dead because of you. Like, Phil Coulson's dead because of you.
That guy lost an eye because of you.
Maybe he was revived, but he was dead. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I really enjoyed the scene. I don't even know if you could call it just the scene, but like the moments of Omos being like, "Why do you do the thing?
Mm-hmm.
Why?" He's like, "Because blah blah blah," and then eventually like they get real on it for a minute, and you know that Loki's totally self-aware, and like he gets it. And it's like, oh, that's all right, cool. Like I like that. I like the psychology behind Loki understanding what he's doing, but not being able to kind of help himself, or like he thinks he's helping himself by understanding what he's doing and still doing it. Like, I don't know. It was a good scene.
No, it shows the talent that is Tom Hiddleston, that he was able to wisecrack and be comical throughout most of the episode, and then on the almost a turn of a hat, he makes you feel. He breaks your heart. Like, I was cast as the villain, and that's why I'm doing villainous things, but I don't want to be bad, like, kind of thing. Like, almost breaking the fourth wall.
I didn't know until chat told me. It was Malfoy that brought it up. He's the executive producer on the show, so he has a lot of like say in what's going on with his own character. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. The couple of things that happened in the first episode were directly because the Odin part, the Odin saying I love you, both my sons, like, was added in because Tom Hiddleston said this would be perfect for my character,
and it worked. It was good.
Yep.
Also, chat has agreed.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Chat has agreed that we all heard it. The quote saying widely beloved cop drama The Shield is terrible, and it's cited to you, Case. I don't think you'll be able to escape that one anytime soon around here.
To finish it up, any other favorite parts from the first episode, and what are you looking forward to for the continuance of the season? Case.
That's a good question. I like the setup of like what the stakes are going to be going forward. Seeing these sort of realities that are kind of becoming branched off and too far gone, and the implication that it is a different realities version of Loki that is causing it and is going to be the antagonist. I have a feeling that the rest of the show is going to be very different from this pilot, just because this pilot has a lot of exposition of like it catches Loki up on the character direction or progression that we the audience got to see him go through in Thor Ragnarok and Thor the Dark World and the Avengers movies. Now going forward, we're going to see those kind of stories, which is, I think, why they did the DB Cooper scene the way they did, just to be like get a scene like that in. If there's going to be things like it, even if it's not like him in historical periods, just him traveling period and doing missions, will be a very different vibe from what this actual episode was.
I'm really excited for gender fluid Loki. Because I've heard a couple of rumors that we're getting like female Loki soon, and then I'm hoping this leads to a just more like ambiguous Loki. Because I like that.
I'm here for that.
Yeah, I'm here for that. As a non-binary person, I want that representation. Coming from Loki, I don't think there's a better character to be that kind of representation. Where it's I'm everything and nothing and whatever I want to be, so deal with it. I like that. It's exciting.
No, yeah, and I think one of the one way I heard some other people describe this first episode is more like an issue 0 if you're a comic book reader. Like it literally is just setting it up for to catch you up on what it is that Loki is at this point. All right. Let's get talking about Hulk 2003, starring Eric Bana and Nick Nolte and Jennifer Connelly, Sam Elliot. Yeah, Sam Elliot. Sam Elliott's mustache. Like, come on.
They are billed separately, and you do have to pay them separately.
That's right. That's right.
Apparently there was quite a bit of controversy about his mustache, because the mustache is such an iconic part of Thunderbolt Ross, and like Sam Elliott is known for magnificent mustaches, but he was like, but if I'm a military guy, wouldn't they make me shave it? And that's why they end up with like kind of a Hitler stash where it's like super close cropped.
Yeah, it was kind of weird to watch it. Look at it, that was like, ooh, why did they do that to his mustache? But that does make sense. They wouldn't allow him as a military person to be too overgrown.
Yeah. So like Elliot was fighting to not have it because he didn't think it was appropriate for the character in a real military, but they were like, no, it's too iconic to the comic. So
it's a comic book. Sam, come on.
Bits. Yeah.
And they cast you for your mustache, you turd.
Kind of. Well, also his voice.
Yeah.
I I would argue that Sam Elliott is probably the best piece of casting in this entire movie. But I love Sam Elliott. I also should say, before we get too deep into this, like, oh my God, like, you can't tell because of the color correction from the camera, but my glasses are so rose tinted for this movie, because this came out at like what my friends and I referred to as, quote unquote, the summer of fun, which is we were 19 and we had just enough disposable income that we could hang out, and we all had like summer jobs, but it was like just summer jobs, so it was not a huge deal. We could drink and party and have a good time, and I was like so here for this kind of like, no, look, it's an intellectual superhero movie, guys. And it occurred to me that then like a year later, like Garden State came out, and it's like, yep, this is the same audience. Like, it's the same audience who's looking for these kind of things right here.
My chat is demanding that we hashtag restore the Nortonverse.
Oh wow! I mean, it didn't really go anywhere. That's still part of canon, which I would kind of say that this movie almost goes right into the Norton movie.
Yeah, it definitely plays it like the. People have been talking about that aspect for a while. Like, the Norton movie was never quite clear if it wanted to fully distance itself from this movie versus not, and so they kind of allow it to function as a soft sequel. So it is kind of crazy to think in your head. Like, imagine if like Mark Ruffalo had been cast in this movie, and like all three Hulk movie, or rather those two Hulk movies, and all of the MCU Hulk appearances were all one canon. Like, I kind of like it. It's not that bad. Like, no. There's some issues with this movie. I'm not going to deny it. There are some issues with this movie, which we'll talk about. But there is an interesting story there. And I think that Eric Bana was probably not a good choice for Bruce Banner, despite the fact that his name is so close. For one thing, he's just too physically menacing a guy.
Yes, he is so tall. They tried to make him look so small.
He has arms like people have legs.
Yeah, they tried to put him in baggy clothing to make him look skinny and stuff. I'm like, no, you can still tell that he's pretty bulking underneath that.
Yeah, I just had a hard time getting through this movie. And I don't know if it's fatigue from all of the Hulk movies and all the backdoor pilots, but there wasn't even Golden Retriever Thor to make this movie better.
There wasn't. You're right. I want to,
but there was almost a Golden Retriever.
This is true.
I mean, we got a poodle, a terrier, and a pit bull.
Well, yeah, Golden Retriever had to have been right around the corner. This movie is like 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and that is probably about 40 minutes too long. Like, I got to an hour 20, and I was like, this is the end, right? This is where the movie's over, because this is the first time they capture him. Yeah, when they first capture him. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I looked at it because I stopped it for the night because I was already pretty late last night and I had to finish it today. It said an hour left of this movie. I was like, good Lord, I can't believe that.
Right. There were no fights.
But then you get probably the best part of the movie, which is like the desert fight.
Yes, this is true.
Like with the military trying to track down the Hulk. Like, that's like, as a comic fan coming into it, having been like most of the adaptations that we've gotten of the Hulk, or most people know the Hulk from the Bill Bixby show, the Ferrigno show. Like, we're just never seen like a proper like Hulk in the desert fighting the military kind of scene, and this is the first time we really got it on screen. It was great. It's exactly what we want. He takes part of a tank and uses it a hammer to beat another tank. Like, it's so good.
Was this also the first like talking cameo of Stan Lee? That's his name.
We can fix it. We can fix it afterward. We can edit that out.
Okay, good. Because he comes out of the university talking to Lou Ferrigno. They're both security guards.
I imagine there's probably been lines at some point, but I would have to look. Like, I don't know off the top of my head.
Because I'm just thinking about what we've seen so far in the first Spider-Man.
You guys
movie.
would know better than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, as of right now, I'm inclined to say yes.
Because let's see, the first X-Men movie, he's just on the beach. The first Spider-Man movie, he's Where is he in the first Spider-Man movie?
He's on the balcony?
I'm completely.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I'm completely.
I'm gonna look it up.
Daredevil, he gets stopped by the young Matt Murdock before he walks out into the street, and then in Trial of the Incredible Hulk, he's a juror, so he doesn't have anything to say there either.
Yeah, I mean, I was super familiar with what his voice sounded like because he did like plenty of interviews.
Oh yeah,
he did all the intros for all the Marvel Action Hour stuff in the '90s. He was in Mallrats, so like, I may not have processed like, oh, it's a big deal that he's talking. It was just more like, look, he's on screen with Ferrigno. By the way, Ferrigno plays a security guard in both Hulk movies, and easily could be the same character in both.
Oh, definitely. Connection.
It does work really well as a prequel.
Connection. Did you find something in?
I got baited in.
That's
with
going to be
like,
a really
here's
hard
where he
thing to
wasn't
search
Spider-Man.
for.
I was like, here's where he wasn't Spider-Man. Let's talk about Spider-Verse. I'm upset. Keep going.
What was that,
I'm going to
Case?
dig here for a minute.
All right, let's talk about this movie just as a whole, because I think a lot of people get turned off because this movie is a lot of things. Like, everyone is capital A acting every scene they're in, especially Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot how big of a ham she is.
Oh, you want to talk about hams?
I
Nick
think I've
Nolte
seen
is the
this
biggest
and
ham.
Labyrinth as the. You broke up a little bit there. So.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying you want to talk about hams. Nick Nolte was the biggest ham, but you were speaking about Labyrinth.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, like, Labyrinth is probably the other movie I've seen Jennifer Connelly in the most. Like, I've seen her in other stuff like Rocketeer and other things, and Dark City is probably another one. But Labyrinth, she's like a child who's like an overly dramatic kid who like likes to read like plays and poetry out loud in the park kind of thing. And then you look at this movie and you're like, oh, she's doing kind of the same types of line deliveries in here. Like, you were gonna die and I was gonna have to watch you die. Like really, really hardcore kind of line deliveries on that one. So that's a thing. I realize, and that goes for everyone in this movie. Like, Eric Bana has some weird ass lines, like the lines that probably shouldn't be said. But again, this is an Ang Lee movie.
This is an Ang Lee movie, yes.
In addition to Ang Lee being like very into sort of an artsy type thing and trying to do some stuff with that, which we'll talk about in a second. But like, the other thing is that Ang Lee is not an English native speaker. And I've heard this argument before on other things that have been translated, particularly Super Sentai to Power Ranger stuff, where like when they bring over non-native speakers, it sometimes changes the rhythm of the dialogue and how they think dialogue should be presented in a scene. I'm not saying this is necessarily bad. I'm just saying like it's like, oh yeah, you can kind of spot it. Like the way that they sort of like truncate kind of sentences and like focus on certain parts of it and like give those deliveries. Like, you could really see Ang Lee trying to be like, no, this will be like, has this like sort of poetic like kind of appearance to it all. Like when he's going like when he's trying to describe his heart and things like that. Like, you can be like, oh, this will be an Oscar type scene here. It'll be so beautiful to like to discuss this person trying to explain the dream that is the Hulk that is buried within him. You know, it's a lot going on there, and everyone's line deliveries are fucking incredible.
But so much of this movie, to me, and I thought about this back when I first saw it in 2003, but like even more so now, that so much of this movie looks like a comic book, like a live action comic book. Like, you have the panels, you have the part where Talbot dies, like it's an explosion. He turns into an outline, and then the outline kind of like dissipates. Like, it looks like a comic book would read.
Yeah, which I think that's sort of a part of the problem is that Ang Lee was given the chance to do quote unquote a comic book movie, and the Hulk is a really well known property. So it wasn't, I don't think, focusing on let's make the best Hulk movie possible. He was trying to make the best comic book movie possible, and the Hulk feels weird to us as an audience because he exists pretty well outside of just comic books. Like, if this was Thor, or if this was New Gods, or any other like big Jack Kirby thing, like if this was Fantastic Four, I think a lot of people would have been down for it. But like, while the Hulk is a Kirby creation, like I don't think the weird out there kind of structure elements that Kirby is known for introducing really made that much of an impact on how we perceive the character. Like, while yeah, sure, splash panels are great and like make a big impact on a character like the Hulk, I don't think it really like we think about like, oh, there's like crazy big splash pages on like the 7 issues that Kirby was the illustrator on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not what we associate with. I mean, this would be like this type of filming would be great for the Eternals. Like, that's fucking pure Kirby right there. Like, get some weird comic booky kind of shit going on. Like, you could. I'm not saying that would be better than what we're gonna get. I'm just speculating that it could be fine.
So what I'm hearing is
I maintain like New Gods would have been perfect.
What I'm hearing is I want to see Ang Lee come back and do a Fantastic Four movie then. So like that's just what needs to happen.
I kind of would be down for some of that because like I like the things he's trying to do. Like right from the get-go, he does the green Marvel logo, which was like apparently a big fight to get that to happen. And then he does like the real. I really like the opening sequence into the sort of flashback part of it all. Like the way we get the camera angles, there's like some really cool overlapping shots. Like when David Banner is told by his wife, I forget the mom's name, that she's pregnant. Like they are positioned in a way that is impossible in actual camera work, but you can do on comics. Like they're trying to do these comic book shots, and they're setting up that language so that when we get into the actual movie as a whole, they can slow it down a little bit, but bring it back when they want to. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really cool. I think the music's really good. It's a Danny Elfman score. That's really cool. We've got like great transitions of things. We start setting up all these sort of weird ideas, but it's just so complicated once we get into the actual story. Like they have all of the artifice that the Hulk had accrued, like all the trauma, all the Peter David, like he's got different personalities lying in there, stuff going on. That's all in here. And then he's got also genetic mutations from his father passed down via his Y chromosome, plus nano robots and gamma radiation to all kind of make a cocktail swarming together to make him a big green monster guy. Like, everything is complicated in this movie and also melodramatic and hammy.
I guess that's go ahead, Ian.
There's no simple answer anywhere whatsoever. In this movie, if they had put in the script, is the sky blue? There would not have been a yes.
Right. They would ask whoever asked that question to be like, well, tell me about your dreams so we can answer that question appropriately.
Right. Like, oof. And I did find the answer. This is his first speaking cameo.
Okay.
What did you both think of the new quote unquote origin of the Hulk? As we're adding in this whole, his father was a scientist that passed along the genetic mutation, the nanobots and gamma radiation, and we don't have the gamma bomb as we've seen in the comic books. We don't, we have. There's a whole bunch of added elements that Case brought up to how the Hulk was created this time.
I think it was too convoluted for you're kind of restarting the Hulk for people who aren't already kind of comic book headed to be able to go, yeah, that makes sense. Because let's face it, anybody who reads comic books, we could be told the most outlandish thing, and there's some sort of suspension of disbelief with us that we can go, okay, like sure, why not? But there's too much happening with this origin. Mm-hmm. Pick one, just one, and we can move on from there.
Yeah, it is a lot, and by this point we're starting to get comics that are trying to like tie the Hulk back in with the super soldier serum, so that had already started to like be in the conversation, and then was fully adopted for Incredible Hulk. The thing I really appreciate about the way they do his origin in this movie is that they find a way to combine both the Gamma Bomb 60s origin and also the Bill Bixby here's a lab test kind of scenario origin, because we get all the stuff with the father and like killing the mom, and then there's the explosion at the lab that they all see in the distance and they all have like vague memories of, which is like this green gamma bomb kind of thing. And then we also have him having an actual act of altruism, which we don't really see any indication that like the MCU Hulk did. But that is a key part of the comic origin, like that the Hulk throws Rick Jones into like safety, like either gets him to the bunker or gets him to the trench or whatever to avoid the blast. In this case, he hops in the way and takes the hit. Like that is a moment of heroism from Bruce Banner that sometimes people overlook in terms of their adaptations of the Hulk. They like just jump to the conflicted monster part. And I love the Bill Bixby like Hulk. I maintain that the pilot for the Bill Bixby Hulk show is the best Hulk movie we have ever gotten. But this is at least trying to take all of those things and create a synthesis of it all. I don't think it succeeds, but I think it's trying really hard.
So where do you both think that that this one goes wrong? Like other than being convoluted, I mean, I think in 2003 it didn't have a real big reception. Like people that weren't talking about this movie in a good way after watching it.
So I think this might answer a little bit of that. Magic Bollocks in chat here just said probably the lamest aspect is that the Hulk's power was ignited by basically bad wiring on the machine and getting shocked.
Fair. It's not a very dramatic opening as in a bomb's about to drop and I need to save this kid that's on the thing. But as Case brought it up, it is still an act of heroism. Like, yeah, the guy's his ID badge gets caught on a piece of equipment as he's fixing something that shorted out, and thus everything starts on its own kind of thing.
Yeah, and then they do basically a Dr. Manhattan kind of setup, but like still with like at least a little bit of him stepping in the way. Yeah, the lab accident radiation explosion thing is just such a trope at this point that it like I don't know.
Yeah, wonder why they
nothing about it. Like I don't know if it's good or bad. Like
I wonder why they didn't name that character Rick Jones. Why did they name him Harper instead? I wonder if it's just Rick Jones is owned by someone else, and yet we haven't seen a Rick Jones in all the MCU yet.
It's probably a Marvel thing in general because he as a character, while he's part of Hulk's origin, has been a big part of a lot of stuff. Like he served as Bucky for a little while for Captain America, and has been like he also was the other side of Captain Marvel for multiple iterations, and was actively in a comic book at the time that was a Captain Marvel comic. So I don't know, I don't know if they wanted to like have that be bundled with the rights, because it's the same deal that like Fox had like any mutant that was created was fair game for Fox to use in X-Men movies, which is why they like dramatically cut down creating Marvel like mutant characters in the comics. And I don't know what deal they had here, like what things were part of the Hulk package when they optioned it.
I just am sad to think that Rick Jones is lost in bureaucracy somewhere. He can't be in any movies or any TV shows because it wasn't written into the contracts properly.
He's hanging out at the TVA just waiting.
Oh, is that who Casey is? I'm okay with that.
Can we talk about the actual Hulk for a minute?
Which is what I was going to say, because he's way too green.
Well, the green is its own thing, and but I love one aspect about it, which is this is the first time that I ever looked at the Hulk and thought that was Bruce Banner.
Okay,
like when in a comic book, it never feels the same, but it's a drawn character, and usually their faces are fairly abstract, but oftentimes they make it much more monstrous. And when it was the Bixby, it was Ferrigno. You know, it's literally two different people playing the same body, but it's a transformation. It feels like Etrigan the Demon or like a Captain Marvel kind of thing. Like it's like different people. In this case, it feels like Eric Bana has been had a hose pumped into his back, particularly into his muscles, and someone was just doing like an air compressor to like fill him up and make him real big. And while there are certainly adaptations and interpretations of the Hulk where having them as distinct characters is really important to the story that they're telling, in this one in particular, the entire narrative is around the trauma of Bruce Banner and how he's dealing that by way of and like what the impact of him having powers are having on it. And so having it be a central person that retains the same face and feels like the same character from scene to scene is really a cool aspect of the story they're telling here.
Because this was one when they started using the face mapping of like whoever the actor playing Bruce Banner for the Hulk, right? Like, I mean, obviously the technology wasn't there for anything before this, but I believe they also had Ang Lee do the motion capture for the Hulk, like just the body movement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for like the fights and all that, he got really into how he wanted the movement to look on screen.
Which, for a person who directed Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I completely believe that. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be all about that. I'm sorry, Ian, I cut you off a second ago.
No, you're fine. Did y'all watch the regular Hulk or did you watch the special edition?
I watched whatever was available on Showtime. What's the special edition?
I watched the 2-disc special edition, which is probably not actual special edition. It's probably just, I think this is just the theatrical cut.
Okay,
with
because
commentary track and deleted scenes.
Yeah, because I watched the like extended edition.
Oh, geez.
And there's like, if we were talking about the movie being too long to begin with, there's a whole section of the movie that's just sad boy hours Hulk out in the desert before the fight, just out there being sad about being the Hulk. And I'm like, thank God this was cut from the theatrical version, because this does nothing for anything.
I'm curious about where, because we still have scenes like that in the movie.
Yeah, I saw that in the movie.
Like it's
when he's on like the mesa and he's like looking at the flowers and
Yep.
Yeah, but it's more of that.
Okay.
It's like they cut those scenes in half and then put those half of scenes back to back.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm really curious now.
Yeah, it was not a good time.
How did you watch it?
That's what we had.
Oh, that's just the version you had. Okay. I have to remember that.
So what do you guys think about the Hulk getting bigger? Like, he gets really big in this. It's almost like size-changing powers more than just like hulking out kind of powers.
Yeah, so as the movie progresses and as he gets angrier, he becomes larger. I thought it's a little too Deus Ex Machina, right? It's too much of, if he has a problem, he just gets bigger kind of thing, instead of coming up with any other way to solve the problem.
I mean, that is also the Hulk, though.
That is
like
the Hulk.
The madder he gets, the stronger he gets part.
You're absolutely right. I just thought that, like, the more that the perfect example is getting caught in the foam, right? Okay, so what do you do at this point? Well, I just get angrier, and so thus he got bigger and just expanded outside of the foam. So it's the sonic screwdriver to the Doctor, right? It's just the catch-all. It's like, if I come up to the thing, use item A, and I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, like the current run of Hulk comics, and I haven't read it, so
Immortal?
I've just been like kind of trying to follow peripherally the Immortal Hulk stuff, like where the gamma radiation is like linked to like the abyss below, and there's like the supernatural aspect. I feel it has kind of the same element of like, here's a extra thing on top of the simple, he got hit by radiation, now he angry strong. Like this one just isn't hit right. Like, it's okay, well, we got, the nanobots and they're making him bigger and his mutations and all that. Like, I thought for a first movie where he gets so big, because he gets big from very early on. Like the first time he hulks out, or rather the second time he hulks out, the one when he first does it at his house and then like leaves and goes and finds Betty. Like, he's really tall. Like, he's like 25 feet tall when she first sees him. Like, he's like, relative to her, which her like 5-year-old self was to a full-grown Eric Bana, which is bigger than a regular person. And so like that size was like, all right, well, he's real big in a way that's like Maul or like some of the other like Hulk knockoffs that have existed over the years. But it was like, all right, but it's, he's still effectively the same powers. It's just like they're manifesting it by actually having mass, as opposed to just being just stronger without an explanation for the strength. And I don't know, like I was thinking like, well, if this was the first in like a series of Hulk movies and he stabilized in size, maybe once he had worked out his issues or whatever, whatever kind of explanation they have for it would be like, all right, that could be fine. Because like ever since then they've locked his size, I think like at 8 feet or whatever, so that he doesn't get bigger as he fights longer.
Fair. Yeah.
I've always wanted to know what his pants are made of.
The pants were the hardest thing
Apparently.
like, to be CGI'd in this movie. Like like every time he moved or got bigger, like the pants, I don't know, it just seemed off. Like all of it just seemed wrong.
I think they were added after initial renders because there was a whole issue about how we wanted the Hulk to be naked most of the time.
You know what? I can see that.
Because of him growing and the pants being impossible to stretch, and censors made him put it on. Or maybe not censors, but like studio execs being like, you can't have just like Hulk dick everywhere.
Wait, you're telling me that we could have had a movie
only when Thor's in the room.
You're telling me that there's a potential that we could just had a movie full of Hulk dick and we were robbed of that? Because that's funny.
I mean,
yes, I am telling you that.
I mean, later you get, in Watchmen, you get Dr. Manhattan penis just flopping around. I'm sure Ang Lee was just a little bit pissed. He's like, dang it, I wanted to do that earlier in 2003.
Revenge.
But no, I think you can tell. Like you can tell that those shorts were rendered later because like the way even Eric Bana moves, like it's like you could tell that he's probably naked. Like it's just it doesn't look like the pants are part of the body.
All right. So how many Hulk wieners do you think that CG artist had to go through and remove and replace with pants?
This is the butthole cot situation, by the way, right here.
Do you think that it was just kind of covered up or removed and replaced?
I mean, I'm going to say it was just covered up. And I'm honestly going to say that there was probably not too many scenes where it was initially drawn in the first place. Like it was, I imagine a lot of things were being covered in shadow or perfectly placed branch or something like that.
You need a whole ass tree.
Or it could be like a gorilla.
Oh, okay.
Well, it could be like a true gorilla where like gorillas have like proportionally like one of the smallest phalluses of any primate.
Huh. I didn't know that.
The more
maybe
you
that,
know.
Yeah, so it's as a result of actually having this like this family unit structure or like large like herd unit structure, and also having a fair amount of sexual dimorphism results in the sort of silverback scenario where they basically have like no rivals within their community sexually and very little autonomy from the females in terms of like accepting it versus like a more egalitarian and less sexual dimorphic primate like humans, where women and men are about the same size and have about the same muscle mass with like little differences, but like not enough, and women can make decisions on what they want, and so they could be like, oh yeah, I would prefer that penis instead of that penis, and that's why we've evolved bigger penises.
Thank you, Professor Case.
Thank you, Case. That's that was a great explanation of that. No memes on that. Malfoy wants to know, how many Hulk wieners could you take to the cleaners if you could take Hulk wieners to the cleaners?
4. The cleaners has a limit at 4.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. After 4, it's just unruly, and nope, we're not doing that. And Garrett says, from Muppets last week to this.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Well, so it would be Sweetums, right? Who would play Hulk in this? Yeah, and Kermit as Bruce Banner. So he goes from being green to not green.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
What I brought up earlier with the absorbing man, giving Crusher Creel's powers to David Banner, the new father of Bruce Banner. How did you feel about that? And it's definitely a different type of absorbing man, because not only does he absorb the attributes of whatever he touches, he also kind of gets sucked into whatever it is that he touches.
Yeah. I think the blood bit is cool, and I think like where it like turns into like that like congealed mass that then like gets sucked back in. I think that the next shot where like the blood gets absorbed in and then he starts taking on the properties of blood is like a weird bit right there. And I think that primes us all for being like, yeah, they're doing a weird fucking red abomination. Dope. Because we've all kind of wanted, like, at this time, we were all very much primed for like, first superhero movie has evil counterpart of the hero with same basic power sets or same similar origin type stuff, and like, we were already all set up for that. And people were like, "Yeah, the Abomination's like evil Hulk; it'll work." And we're like, "Oh, he's got scales and like weird little tentacle things like coming off of his skin. That could be a cool Abomination right there, right? Yeah, yeah." And then all of a sudden, he turns his hand, he touches steel and merges with steel, and we're like, "Wait, what?
What happened?"
So we were instantly dissatisfied after what actually looked kind of cool. Like it looked like the scales looked kind of cool, and we're like, I would have been down for Red Abomination preceding Red Hulk, and like that would have been a good look. And then no. That said, I like the special effects on the merge, like when his hand like fuses with like the metal or whatever right there, like that first time.
Yeah. Did we have Red Hulk in the comic books at this point in 2003?
Not yet.
No. Okay.
No, that was a couple of years later.
Yeah, and then the fight scene between him and the Hulk, like when he, absorbs the rock, and then eventually they go in the water, and he turns. Does he turn himself into ice, thus freezing the lake?
I was confused on that one.
That last fight is, especially because it eventually just becomes them up in the sky as little like glimpses, is very much like the sort of like weird poetry that Ang Lee is trying to do in this movie. I don't know. It's not a good fight, and it doesn't matter. Like it's really trying to push this whole metaphor thing, and like I like that they're trying to do more than just like, he's got superpowers there's now all of a sudden there's someone who's really dangerous. How will the Hulk deal with it? Like, which could have been like a very bare bones kind of like plot, like kind of Incredible Hulk. Like the Incredible Hulk I like as a movie, but like it is very simple relative to this movie. And I don't think it deals a lot with like what is going on in Bruce's head as much as this one is trying to. And I'm not saying that they are subtle, and I'm not saying that it's nuanced, but they're trying to do a lot in this movie. And by the end, they're just like, no, we have to have a metaphor of Hulk and his father lightning in the clouds.
This movie did too much, or tried to do too much.
It did. You're right.
Yeah.
There were so many spots in this movie where I was like, are we about to have a good movie?
Nope.
Like, I could see this being a thing, and then they would get in their own way. Or maybe not even a good movie. Are we about to have an enjoyable experience?
So as where mine last week with the Daredevil was I understand that there's flaws with this movie, but I love it. This is Case's because he has the great memories that go along with it kind of movie.
Kind of, yeah. I also was just excited because at this point, like, looking back from the perspective of we've had so many superhero movies, like, kind of whatever. But from the vantage point of like, all right, well, we just had Daredevil and we just had the Spider-Man movies and the X-Men movies, and like they're all kind of hit and miss, but we're also like just now getting movies that kind of feel like they're taking parts of comics seriously. Like Spider-Man's like your retro love letter piece. Like Daredevil is I wanted to make a Batman movie, but I didn't have the rights. Like the X-Men movies did interesting things, like the fact that they had the school there, which is I stand by X-Men 1 being like, oh yeah, there's other students, there's kids at class, was a great idea. I think that was a fantastic thing, and there's a reason why it was brought into like the Morrison run of X-Men. Like this was trying to tackle stuff that like I had been reading the Peter David Hulk run, and I was like, yeah, there's like all this all of these like issues that the Hulk is dealing with, from the trauma of his father and the abuse that he grew up with, and like Doc Samson like having a conversation with the Hulk and Grey Hulk and Banner in a metaphorical like therapy session. I was excited that they were at least trying to do that, and they weren't just doing like, oh, if he gets angry, he gets mad and it's a curse that's put on him that doesn't feel like it's an internal struggle. Like, that is part of the Hulk's thing. It's like, it's not just that he has superpowers, and that superpower happens to be a monster that he's connected to. It's him, and that's the thing that they're doing in this movie by making him look like Bana, by making the Hulk look like Bana, by making so much of it be about his internal issues. They're trying to deal with that as opposed to like, let's just have a villain. And also, let's be honest, Hulk villains kind of suck.
Yeah.
Like they threw in the Hulk dogs because they were like, yeah, we can have them fight the Hulk dogs, which good choice to have this like kind of primal, we're gonna like sit, like it's very Tarzan Jane kind of thing. I'm gonna save you from the wild beasts. It sucks that he's beating up dogs.
Yeah.
Like I can't look at that scene and not be like, that fucking dog murderer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also they're monster dogs. So like they were trying to do something in this movie, and they didn't have a lot of things to throw at him that would push him in that way. And so I get them dealing with the dad, and I wish they had something smarter for the dad to do than just become the absorbing man, because it's just weird on top of all the other weird that they have in there. But like, it was fitting, or it was exciting to see like what felt like someone taking it seriously, even if that person taking it seriously was such a theater kid.
I mean, that last scene with Bruce Banner's mom crawling out into the horizon, like reaching out for the mushroom cloud as it blows up, it was just too much, and exactly what you were saying. Okay, what's our toy set that didn't get made? What's the toy from this movie?
The desert tank fight playset. It's the Hulk with two tanks, and one of the turrets comes off of the tank, and you can use it to smash the other one.
I think the base, that like with the elevator shaft and everything. So on the DVD set, if I put this into my original Series Xbox, it would allow me to play a single level from the Hulk video game.
Wow.
But I also actually own the Hulk video game because it's actually a really good game. Like, that spin-off game is dope. It's the engine that they use for Hulk Ultimate Destruction and for the later Incredible Hulk game. And while it's not perfect, like I remember like it was really wonky. Like if you were grappling, you couldn't be hurt. And eventually the game was throwing so many enemies at you, you always just had to keep on grabbing new people and like slamming them against stuff. And that was the only way you could survive. The engine's a lot of fun, and like the base levels were a lot of fun, and I think that this would also work as toys, like the inside military base with like the tank that the Hulk bursts out of, and then like the elevator shaft, and then you could just put it in like your sandbox, and then you have the desert for the fight part. So Perfect. I think that base would be a cool playset. Yeah.
That's what I remember when that video game came out. Like, everybody was like, well, the movie wasn't that great, but this video game is amazing.
Yeah.
Magic Bollock says Bruce Banner getting electrocuted should have been the toy. Which I'm not sure how we want to interpret that. I'm thinking a branded car battery with jumper cables.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little dark.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Well, see, that's the one I want. I want the Central American in the jungle, like fighting off the warlords kind of guy. That's my toy set. Mm-hmm. What do we want to see show up from this movie in the future phases of the MCU?
Yeah, Christ.
A better done Absorbing Man.
Okay. I mean, we have if
there is a better done Absorbing Man in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Exactly. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. counts, then there's an Absorbing Man in there.
Doesn't count.
How dare you? That's what I'm going to make you watch next. All of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. seasons.
Oh, God. Magic Pollock says Sam Elliot. We want Sam Elliot back in the MCU somewhere.
I mean, we get to see Sam Elliot again in our little adventure this season. He's going to show
Ghost Rider.
up. Ghost Rider, that's right. So,
Can we bring him back in the MCU further down, but just as his character from Ghost Rider?
sure, he can be the Phantom Rider. I'm all for that.
Like, I'd be down. I'd be here, but we could talk about that when we get to Ghost Rider.
I don't know. Honestly, I guess it wouldn't be bad as Case put it out to make the Hulk get bigger. I wouldn't mind seeing what happens to Mark Ruffalo's Hulk as he gets bigger.
Yeah, because
if he's unstable, like, I think that's part of it. Like, this is when he's like first releasing all of this like bottled up emotion, and I think it fits here. But if it, like, Smart Hulk, it definitely doesn't make sense for. And I think the more stabilized Hulks of either Thor Ragnarok or even Avengers 1, like, that doesn't feel like the type of Hulk that would just grow out of control.
And I think just rethinking it, it'd be awesome if in the future phases, if they have Mark Ruffalo in there, like, kind of explain, maybe even in She-Hulk, when he's like, after I became the Hulk for the first time, I went to all these other things, I did all these other things, and you incorporate the other two movies, like the versions that weren't Mark Ruffalo, into his story, like, more concretely.
So when he does the blood transfusion with Jennifer, it's just like, oh, I'm sorry, the nanobots that were my blood got into yours.
Okay.
I want the MCU to do the same kind of desert fight scene. Like, doesn't need to be current fight scene. Doesn't need to be like Mark Ruffalo's lost control. It could just be a flashback to like the first time he hulked out, and maybe retell this scene from that perspective. Mm-hmm. Because again, like the Incredible Hulk feels like a sequel, and it certainly feels like a later part of a story. So, like, getting that kind of thing done with the elements that you would get in the later MCU and the technology that they have to bring towards it, would be really cool. Because, like, again, Hulk in the desert fighting tanks is such an iconic part about the character that they never fucking use in any adaptation of the character.
True. Okay, Case, thank you once again for coming on the show, talking about another comic book movie. Where can people find you?
If people want to find me, they can find me on Twitter at Case Aiken. They can find me on Instagram at Quetzalcoatl5, because I am a big nerd for both mythology and the Legion of Superheroes. And you can find stuff I do over at certainpov.com. I host 3 shows over there. One's Another Pass, which is a movie analysis podcast that both of you have been on. I am the host of Men of Steel, along with J. Mike Folson, which is a Superman appreciation podcast. And then I am the Dungeon Master for Scruffy Nerf Herders, which is our network-wide Star Wars D&D game. That one's not exactly on hiatus, but I've been recording sessions with like different groups of people, so it's like kind of there's gaps between like story arcs, as it were. And you can find all of that at certainpov.com. You can also find a YouTube series I've been doing that as a spinoff of Men of Steel called Superman Analogs, where I talk about characters who are like Superman, which has been a lot of fun. And I just did Mimic as of the time that we're recording this, and Mimic is one of my favorite characters from Exiles, and he's awesome. So I'm plugging a Marvel comic character right now. I don't know why I'm doing it. But yeah, certainpov.com or Twitter, Case Aiken. It's good.
And Ian, where can people find you?
Hi, you can find me right here on Twitch every Wednesday when we record this. Twitch.tv/IanFlux. You can find me on Instagram at IanFlux and Twitter at IanFlux12. That is IANFLUX, the numbers 1, 2 if you're on Twitter, and IANFLUX everywhere else. And I know that Mitch can tell you where Mitch can be found if you ask very nicely, but I'm not going to make you ask very nicely, because I'll ask Mitch, where can people find you, please?
Well, you can find me on Twitter. I am at Mitchipedia GEM. GEM stands for Geek Elite Media. The rest of Geek Elite Media is at Geek Elite Media on Twitter, at Geek Elite Media on Instagram, and Facebook.com/Geek Elite Media is our Facebook page. Check out archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts on our network on our website, geekelitemedia.com. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Geek Elite Media. You can get exclusive material that only patrons get, and Case is one of our patrons.
Yep.
And if you could please...
Proud to support you guys.
Thank you.
If you get the highest tier of the Patreon, Mitch contractually has to hang out with you.
This is true. It's in writing.
That was my plan.
Whatever podcatcher you use to listen to us, please rate and review us. It helps spread the word of our network. But until next time, this is Journey into Mystery on the Geek Elite Media Network, saying always remember to geek out.
Geek out.
Geek out.
This concludes our broadcast.